This is a bittersweet moment for me tonight. It's also a transition date for me. It was 1 year and exactly 2 weeks ago when I took the oath of office to become Deputy Secretary of Commerce. I'll be leaving that position at the stroke of midnight, proud of the many things that we have accomplished while I was here this past year, ranging from conducting a successful census and managing major transitions in our NOAA satellite program, to helping build a $5 billion grant program from scratch, to expand high-speed internet in unserved and underserved parts of America. This past year was a wonderful opportunity to serve President Obama and the American people, and to work with Secretary Locke and the immensely talented staff, some of whom are here tonight with MBDA and others at the Department of Commerce. The other new reality is that we are living in a global economy. It's no longer U.S.-centric, and the sooner we recognize that, the more competitive we're going to be. And whether your business is here in D.C. and Anacostia, the rural parts of Alabama, you're not just competing now with companies in Los Angeles or Boston, but you're now competing with competitors in Shanghai and Bangalore. Last year, my trip to Bangalore, to Shanghai, Shanghai probably has more cranes in operation than any other city in the world. Far different Shanghai than I saw the first time I went there in 1987. So these companies in these countries have decided that it is now their turn on the global stage. Let me tell you a little story about Bangalore. I was in India last year for about a month teaching and going through some of the technology centers. Bangalore's somewhat their Silicon Valley. And you go through, all the usual suspects are there. All the big technology giants are from around the world are there in Bangalore, and these wonderful little technology clusters and centers. And when you get taken on a tour, you very quickly realize that almost all of the people doing all of this forward thinking, all of this innovation are under 30 years old. They have PhDs in fields that are so esoteric that you need a dictionary to understand what it is they're telling you that they're doing. And what's very different is, and I'm going to tell you about how old I am, their grandfathers were my competitors and Paul's competitors and my old swimming buddy here, Michael Smith from Howard. Their grandfathers were all the ones who came here to MIT, to Caltech, to Rensselaer, to Carnegie Mellon, to Georgia Tech, and all of the technology schools, and they stayed here. Well, in that couple of generations that has evolved, the Indian Institutes of Technology have figured out that they've got what we had, and now maybe they'll come for their graduate work. But in the process, they've created a middle class in India of about a couple of 100 million people, young people, who are creating the future. And that's what we're competing against. And they have a single-minded focus, again, that it is now their turn. You'd also look at what is happening in the auto industry. My 6 trips to Detroit this year, working on this one-stop shop to help reposition and repoint some of the companies and looking at how they can use their old technologies in new areas. We looked at the fact that when I was in India, that's when Tata bought Jaguar and Range Rover. Now, guess what that means? And you had to be there to see it. They will now have a $2,000 car for the everyday driver, their Chevrolet, all the way up to a $150,000 car. Now, don't fool yourself and kid yourself that those cars are only going to be used and driven in India. We're going to see that coming back in many, many different ways, because China and India are serious about the contention that now is their turn for prominence in the global economic arena. Now, there's another story there. You go to India and you see the numbers of people. We arrived I was on the board of Accenture at the time, and we arrived about 3 in the morning on our Boeing business jets, and there were still 3 million people, walking the streets of Mumbai. Over the next 10 years or so, about 300 million people will be moving from the rural areas of India to the major cities. Now, what does that mean? It means that inhabitants are already going to descend on already overcrowded major cities. That means there's going to be a need for housing, for schools, for hospitals, highways, telecom, bridges. In a word, infrastructure. And the MBDA Global Construction Program could not be more timely in helping our minority business community become part of what will be the next wave into that part of the world. Because the other forecast that many of you may certainly be aware of is that by 2035, it's projected that about 60% of all consumer spending and consumer services are going to be resident in India and China. So we've got to get back on track here in terms of innovation and the ability to export our goods and services that we have come to be known for over the years. 2 weeks ago, I attended, along with Michael Blake and a few others in the room here, a high-level meeting at the White House to talk about ways to improve business opportunities for small and minority businesses, and really all American businesses. But to succeed, we're going to need smart and innovative business entrepreneurs, like all of you, to become engaged with the government, become part of the solution to the problem that we face, or the challenges that we face. We need your ideas, we need your enthusiasm, we need to find solutions together. It's something I'm people in commerce hear me say it all the time, and they won't have to hear it after midnight. But we have to, it's imperative. We must put our best minds on our toughest problems if we are going to win in the global marketplace. In my business career, I've lived outside of the U.S. most of my adult life. I've lived in Asia twice, Latin America twice, Europe twice. I've been in 91 countries. I've seen this firsthand. I've started businesses in almost every country in the world. I've seen the hunger, and I've seen the fire in the belly that we used to claim as our own. Many of these countries, and whether it's the BRIC countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, or any of the other emerging countries, have looked over the years at what we've done well. They have literally cherry-picked the best of what we've done, the best of what Europe has done, and again, now they're saying it's our turn. And at the risk of suggesting that we have a national industrial policy, and I can say that tomorrow, the fact is, for the last 30 years, I've been going to Southeast Asia and other countries who have been giving tax incentives, training incentives, all the things that you can think of to induce U.S. companies to come in and build. I've put more factories in Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand over the last 30 years. Now it's time for that to come back this way. And there's another program that you're going to hear about pretty soon called Select USA, which is focused on that. And Commerce and the White House collectively are going to lead that effort. So, in conclusion, let me just sort of put another historic note on the mark here. 47 years ago tomorrow, on the National Mall, not too far from where we're standing tonight, Martin Luther King Jr. spoke of his dream for America. Today, whatever our color or race, we're all heirs to the legacy that was so dearly paid for by the pioneers who fought for discrimination and who earned a place in American history. And Dr. King once said, and this is my emphasis, not his, but I will use the quote, "The dignity of the individual will flourish when the decisions concerning his life are in his own hands and when he has the means to seek self-improvement," unquote. So as entrepreneurs and innovators, you are creating those means, and you're also at the same time honoring the legacy of those who have cleared the path before us.